We're going to bring y'all into our huddle.
Today is Thursday, December 12th, 2013, and you are in the Warriors Huddle with me, Bram. With me, as always, my boy and producer, Scott.
Scott here.
And sitting in for the second straight week, probably the first time in a long time we've had you consecutively, Justin, trapped in Golden State Taylor.
I'm the comeback kid this week.
Hey-oh, welcome back. Gentlemen, how you guys doing?
Feeling good, feeling great.
I'm feeling awesome. Like I said, every time I come on, it's after a big comeback now.
I want you guys to notice long pause here. I want you to speak as much as you want early on here. I mean, we had some problems. I was going too much last time. Anything else you guys want to add early on? Or
No, I just appreciate that you're learning on the job.
So this is what I'm pausing for? Nothing? You guys have nothing early on?
I don't know what to say this early in the podcast.
We just started the goddamn show.
Thank God. Well, I mean, last time you gave me hella shit because I didn't let you speak, so I'm letting you speak. Nothing else?
I'm also used to having like maybe first 5 or 7 minutes to kind of think of what I want to say this time.
Well, then what the hell are you giving me shit? You should be happy about it as opposed to attacking me. Well, I guess I'll pick up where I should have right after Justin's first comment. Warriors just fired off an important win against Dallas on the back of a dominant, basically all-star appearance by Steph Curry. So you know we got big things to talk about in the Warriors update. We're going to go through the Warriors' last 4 games, including the embarrassment in Charlotte and the huge victory over Dallas in Oracle. And then we're going to talk about the recent news, in fact, news that came out just today that Jermaine O'Neal requires and is going to undergo a season-ending right wrist injury, and talk about just how much that affects the Warriors. And then, in a return to our Vegas-themed segment, Over Under, we're going to use the excuse that we were about a third of the way through the season to give out a new series of fairly bold predictions. But before we get into any of that, a little bit of housekeeping. Uber, very fast, still continues to sponsor us. Best app you can buy for the iPhone. Also the best way you can get transportation. You don't feel like looking for a cab, and who the hell does? Finding a cab is such a goddamn nightmare.
The app is actually free.
Did I say it was pay or?
The best app you could buy is what you said. So
okay. Well,
you can actually just download the app for free.
You can buy for
I'm sure they appreciate
money.
the correction. They don't want you putting that kind of stuff out there.
Anything else we should throw on that, or?
You got the rest of it right.
It's the drunk-ass app of choice.
Drunk-ass app of choice. And I'm going to also change the introduction for Scotty, my boy, producer, and just giant pain in the ass for no reason, and showstopper. So congratulations on the new title. I will add a quick Uber story.
Equipment manager, comedy goalie.
Yeah, those all, exactly right.
Call me the stickler.
Those all go in there. Just the other day, I had a work meeting that went late. My fucking car got stuck in the garage. The garage apparently closed before I could get to it. It was a nightmare. And after I realized that just staring at the huge metal gates wouldn't, in fact, make them open, turns out that doesn't help at all. The only possible solution I could turn to is Uber, and they got me to the house. So this thing is the best app you can download. Is that better?
That was better.
I'm glad you went to the app before you went to the liquor store.
I didn't say I didn't go to the liquor store. I'm just telling you that I did, in fact, use the app. Another bit of housekeeping, and I'll turn the main portion of this over to you, Scotty, but it's my understanding we're on a whole bunch of new servers and new ways you can get the show.
Yeah, servers isn't the right word, but we are now on a lot of the look you're giving me right now.
I mean, this is already the most boring podcast I have ever listened to in my life. I mean, Jesus Christ, we could just call it the NBA Corrections. Go ahead.
All right, I'm sorry, but so there's a bunch of different podcast marketplaces which we are now on. So we've been on iTunes. We're now on Stitcher, Double Twist, BlackBerry, Zune. Apparently people have
Zunes?
People still
Those
use Zunes.
Still exist?
They've got a podcast marketplace. So if you have a Zune or you use any of those other apps, look for the Warriors Huddle on there.
Can you track if you get any hits from the Zune marketplace? I'd be very interested to know if one person downloads.
Strikes me that whoever's listening to this already has a method to listen to it, so this commercial probably isn't hitting too many people.
Well, that was just the first part of my message. The second part is tell your friends about this podcast. We're really trying to grow this thing organically, not doing any type of formal advertising or anything like that. So spread the word, tell your friends about us, and if your friend has a Zune, tell them, that friend who before you said don't listen because you can't, well, now your friend can.
It'll soon be available on Betamax video, like carrier pigeon. Justin, Scotty, and I argued about that last portion, asking for other people to tell their friends about it. Does it seem desperate? Does it seem genuine? How'd you pick that up?
No, it's all good. It's the way to do it. You want word of mouth is the best form of advertising. If you're actually putting out some sort of external promotion, That's the disingenuous part.
There you go.
You want all your fans to be, or listeners, they don't have to be fans. You want all your listeners to be hardcore Warrior fans. That's what you got.
Well, if it's genuine, let me add then that the Huddle is growing, but it's not growing fast enough. We love hanging out with you guys so much that we want to get a much larger crowd. So at the risk of doubling down on Scotty, please make sure to at least tell one other person. Let's see how big we can get this thing to go.
It sounded like you were insulting your current base by telling them that you need more.
I don't feel like you're listening very actively there.
Yeah.
What I'm saying is that we needed more, but we love our current actual listeners. The last piece of housekeeping, just in case our numbers do grow as much as we're hoping that they will, we're going to need a new intern. We had some bad luck with Robert, the intern. We don't need to revisit that in particular ass-smashing, terrible
I never even
rejection.
got to meet him, man.
Just a terrible rejection that I'm not really over. I still kind of cry myself to sleep. But if you are interested in being an intern with us, would be comfortable coming up on the air and have some kind of audio technological background, please give us a shout. You can reach us on the Gmail account. That's warriorshuddle@gmail, or via Twitter, where we can be found at Warriors Huddle. That is all the housekeeping I got, gentlemen. You guys got anything?
Are you looking for that intern to take my spot? Is that what that is? You put them on air to get rid of me.
Jesus, he figured that out, Scotty. I did not.
Yeah.
I didn't figure like I was going to pick that up.
You were a lot quicker on that than I thought. Thought maybe you wouldn't really pick that up until you heard the episode later.
Yeah, exactly. Look, there's a new Huddle available.
When you were listening to it on your Zoom and we're all fired up.
They got a new intern. Oh.
Well, I guess we don't have any more housekeeping. Let's jump in to the Warriors update. Let's start with past scores, current standings, 4 games since the last podcast. December 6, 105-83, crazy disappointing loss to Houston in Houston. I am so tired of that team. A 108-82 win over the Grizzlies at Memphis the following day, December 7th. A 115-111, probably worst loss of the season so far, to the Bobcats in Charlotte. That one was on December 9th. And then most recently, a 95-93 thrilling, if not maybe closer than it needed to be, win over Dallas at home. Warriors are now 13-10. We're tied for 7th in the West, but we're tied with 2 teams, Dallas and Phoenix. So we are kind of consecutively in the playoffs and actually out of the playoffs. The upside is that we are only 5.5 games behind first place Portland, who is apparently past San Antonio. Mark with the C. Stein looked poorly on this last 4-game stretch and has moved us down 2 places. We were 9, we are now 11, outside of the top 10 power rankings of Mark with the C. Stein for the first time
sky is
this
falling.
year.
I think we're actually in the A seed, and we have the sole A spot. Phoenix is actually above us on 7th. I hate to keep correcting.
We don't. We have the exact same record on all 3. Those are just the ways that the standings appear, where all of us are at 13-10.
No, Phoenix isn't. But
Phoenix is not at 13-10?
Nope. They're at 12-9.
Let's pause it for a second. They are absolutely 12-9. You were right again, Scotty. How'd that feel?
It felt really good. We paused it. We went, looked it up. My heart's beating really fast, even though I knew I was correct.
Yeah, you still got a little bit nervous about it.
I did, yeah.
No, you were absolutely right, man. That's fantastic. Let's go through the 4 games. Let's follow the model that we sent down last week. Let's not go through them actually in consecutive order. Instead, let's start with the Dallas win, since that happened just last night, and I'm sure it is on all of our minds. Like I said, that was a 95-93 win over Dallas just last night. It's one you went to, no doubt?
I was there. Thanks to Let'sGoWarriors.com. It sent me down and sat me on the floor. I mean, for the second time in 2 weeks, I saw a great comeback. I've been to 2 games in 2 weeks. I've seen 2 quarters of good basketball.
I'm sorry, did you say you went on Let'sGoWarriors.com?
That you're affiliate? Are you affiliated with Let's Go Warriors?
I think I'm affiliated with Let's Go Warriors. I'm not affiliated with Let's Go Warriors?
What I know is that we did not go to 1 game, certainly not last night, on any kind of Let'sGoWarriors.com
certainly
tickets.
Not floor seats.
Not any floor
nationally
seats
televised game.
And I'm going to pull up Let's Go
Me and
Warriors.
Doug Collins watched the game together. We were right there.
I am currently looking at Let'sGoWarriors.com, and I see a lot of things from the Huddle, but I don't see one thing from Trapped in Golden State. So that's kind of weird that you got the invite and we didn't get anything.
Well, I think part of it is I'm kind of like the Let's Go Warriors good luck charm at this point. They send me to games and we win, and then that's good for the website. So let's keep it up.
Strangely, I'm not viewing it as a good luck charm as much as a F you from the website to Scotty and I, but that is what it is. This game featured the return of Monte to the Collie. It was exceptionally important. Going into it, Dallas was a full game ahead of us. They already had beaten us, less than a couple weeks back. So this is one I felt that we needed, and they looked terrible yet again. The Warriors are starting off a very concerning trend in only playing 1 of 4 quarters. That was certainly true here, and they found themselves down by as many as 18 points in the first half, down 12 in the fourth quarter, and in fact down 6 in the final 90 seconds. We have got to find a way, even though they won this game, to show the kind of consistent effort where we don't have to worry about coming down or coming back from being down in as many as 18 points.
Yeah, I guess it was better than the Houston game where they played 0 out of 4 quarters. But yeah, me and Brownie at Brownie NBA were there watching the game, and he was telling me that he'd never heard it that loud, and I was like, really? That's the first time you haven't seen a big win here before. And yeah, if you only make it to a couple games a year, if you're not there for like a comeback or a nationally televised game, it's not quite the same experience. But the Coliseum was just off the hook. But it just took 4 quarters to get 3 quarters plus to get there.
This team is learning really bad habits by having these big deficits and then coming back with these incredible last quarter heroics. And I think Jackson should be a lot more pissed, because after the game, during his press conference, he's praising the team. Everybody's all happy, but this win it concerns me, actually. I mean, you can't have that level of heroics. Steph Curry getting a 4-point play. Draymond Green hitting a clutch 3-pointer.
That Bogut block?
I mean, these are
the things
these are heroics that aren't going to be there for most games.
Heroics are required. They shouldn't be required. But the addition of Andre Iguodala may lessen the need for the heroics, I would like to think.
I think we're kind of agreeing the heroics don't concern me. The need for the heroics do, especially against a team I view us as being far more talented than, and a reason that we had a lot of motivation to beat them, not just the standings, but like I said, they beat us recently. I don't know what the key is to get more energy. I don't know if it means starting someone like Draymond Green, who never gives you a play off. I don't know if it means screaming more before the game as opposed to halftime. Whatever it is, they have to do it. Good news is that Steph Curry did lead us back. He was nothing short of phenomenal. Some things are very obvious in life. Fire is hot, ice is cold. One of those is Steph Curry is absolutely unquestioned an all-star this year, and I think this game cements it. He scored 24 of his game-high 33 in the second half when they needed it most, and Scott alluded to it as a downside. I viewed it as an amazing play, a 4-point play. They were down, 92-86 with 1:26 remaining. Seemed like the game was over. Steph drew a foul on Jose Calderon, drilled the 3, hit the remaining free throw, brought us within 2, and then had one of his 10 assists to Draymond Green when we took the first lead. One of the things that I loved about this, not just that he showed the intestinal fortitude, this show has been a huge Steph Curry fan since its inception. But we have also talked as much shit as we possibly could about Steph's lack of a killer attitude. We have said time and time and time again that this kid needs to grab a game by its throat at the end and assert his dominance. It was Jarrett Jack who did it before Iguodala got hurt. He was giving it up to him. Last night, it was Steph and Steph alone. This is what we've been waiting for, and he finally took that step. Now, I don't want to see it all the time. They shouldn't be down this many. We shouldn't be relying on a 4-point play because you're not going to see it. But he finally took a big step in that development.
And I think that's really the best thing that came out of this game was seeing Steph be clutch finally and having that assassin attitude where he was going to put the team on his shoulders. And he was still willing to to pass the ball and give it up when it was the right play. He got Draymond that 3.
Right.
But when it really counted, he was going to be the guy who took the shot.
And they drew the play up for him. The final shot. So Steph didn't just bring us back. Draymond didn't just put us up by 1. Ellis went 1 of 2. Monte Ellis went 1 of 2 on free throws, gave the ball back to the Warriors with about 10 seconds left. And when the Warriors came out, the ball went to Steph Curry, something that we have not seen on the final play. Even when he takes the final shot, we run him off a bunch of screens. So he finally had the rock. I love seeing that.
Yeah, and there was no question to anybody in the building that Steph was going to take that ball and he's going to take that shot. They set a screen, Dallas switched, he ends up with Sean Marion, and I swear 5 people in my section said, step back and pop it, and that's exactly what happened. And if Steph gets a shot up like that, it's going in.
He caught Marion on a head fake, so he ended up getting a wide open. Now,
Sean Marion, interesting move to put him on Curry in that.
They switched.
And they actually even talked about it afterwards. Dirk was asked about that, and he said, we felt comfortable about it because Sean Marion has been and is our best perimeter defender, so it was a matchup we didn't feel really bad about.
They're stuck in like 1997.
The Matrix is not necessarily the Matrix anymore. The thing is, he bit. It wasn't that he was too slow. He just bit on a pump fake, and it was what it was.
Those clips that are posted on Let's Go Warriors, the Instagram account all the time, they show Steph working on that exact shot constantly.
Absolutely right.
Jab, step back, pop it. Jab, step back, pop it. He does that just routinely, and I felt like I was watching an Instagram clip on Let's Go Warriors, except there was 15,000 people there this time.
Which is exactly what Mark Jackson said. I've seen him take that shot thousands of times. So when the curtain came up, he took it this time. I knew he'd make it. Now, after that, so Steph hits a shot. The Warriors go up 2. There's still 1.3 seconds left, and confusion reigned immediately afterwards. I think both the Warriors and the Warriors bench, pretty much everybody except for Bogut, thought that Dallas still had a timeout. So Steph hits that shot, runs across the half court, and does one of those flying chest bumps with Nemanja Nedovic, who came off the bench to do it. Problem is, Dallas didn't have a timeout. Dallas, in fact, had inbounded the ball. They missed the half-court heave. What the real problem is, like I said, Nemanja Nedovic came off the bench. Yeah. That's a technical.
Yeah, well, I don't. How was that not called?
If they call that, they now have 2 shots and the ball, a chance to tie it and a chance to win it. We got really lucky.
So what ultimately did they rule as to why that wasn't?
They just let it go. They didn't touch it.
The game was over.
You watch ESPN's highlights. They show the chest bump as if the game was over. They didn't even look at it. It's not even getting that kind of under the lens look like, wait a minute, what was going on here? So memo to Nemanja Nedovic, or the European Derrick Rose. I'm not sure how many cultural transitions you have to get through. Maybe in the Euro League you can run off the bench while the other players are still there. Here you cannot.
And that's what makes me so angry about the press so much of the time, is that something like that would be completely ignored. I even read, in preparation for the show, a Dallas recap of the game. Didn't even mention it. If I was a Dallas sports writer, I would be livid.
No, they seem to let it go. They absolutely seem to let it go. Last thing I wanted to mention, I guess one of 2 things I wanted to mention. Draymond Green continues his ascension.
Draymond?
I saw that on ESPN. I don't know if I'm willing to accept that.
And I got to give you, Bram, a lot of credit, because last week you pointed out that Draymond was clutch. I let it slide because the show was running long, but I had a long discussion with a friend this week who listened to the show, who was really pissed that I let you say that without saying anything. But you were proved correct last night.
What's that friend's name?
Taraz.
Go fuck yourself, Taraz. No, he played very well here. I think he ended up, let me double check this. 5 rebounds, 4 assists, 9 points, 2 blocked shots, and just an endless amount of energy. And in my mind, and we'll dedicate this to Taraz, he earned the quote of the week.
Don't forget the defense too, because he was staying in front of Monte, whoever they put him on. It's like he's giving him problems. He gave Dirk problems on at least a couple of possessions.
And in fact, in this quote, what he talks about is a couple of things. 1, they need to stop falling behind, is exactly what we said. And 2, what he comes in and tries to add when he comes into the game is everything the team isn't providing, including defense.
Not just these comeback wins, Draymond, but the way that you guys are sticking with it and being gritty and really fighting in these wins. How does that set things up?
We have to stop. We can't continue to get behind like that and continue trying to come back and win. Once again, our crowd helped us get back into the game. Yeah, we did play hard, but let's play hard and beat the team by 15 or 20 points. Let's not play hard and, play lackadaisical, get down 15 or 20 points and then play hard and come back and win by 1 or 2 points. If we can play like that for the entire 48 minutes, then that's the team that everyone expected, but not even what everyone expected, what we expect, and that's what we have to start doing. We see that we can do that, but we have to stop putting those runs together for 10, 12, 15 minutes and do that for 48 minutes. And that's when you become an elite level team. Anytime I come into the game, do something to bring some energy to the gym, bring some energy to this team. Because usually when we're losing, that's probably what it is. Tonight we didn't hit shots early on, but at some point in the game, we're going to hit shots. Know that. Bring it on the defensive end. If they got a guy who's got it going, try to make him take some tough shots, and everything else falls in place.
I mentioned this was the return of Monte. I just wanted to give him a quick shout out. He ended up with 21, 5, and 4, was getting to the rim pretty much as many times as he wanted. There's no one on our team who really matches up well with him, although he did miss that big free throw down the stretch.
Draymond.
Here's my question for you guys. Do you think it's tough for Monte to come back, see a team led by Steph, who they essentially picked instead of him, and then watch Steph hit that final shot? Or do you think Monte's over that and no longer cares?
I don't think he cares. I think he likes coming back. He knows he's got a lot of fans here. He gets a lot of love when he comes back. But I don't think he knows how bad a shape this team was in when he was here. He was glad to go.
I don't think he thinks twice about it.
Yeah. Really?
Yeah. You?
I might be overly competitive, but if so, this was his team. They brought in Steph. His first thing was, we cannot play together. There's no way that we can win together. The Warriors made a conscious decision to pick Steph over him. Traded him out to Milwaukee. Now he's found himself in a better place. But to come back to an arena that used to be his, play in front of a crowd that used to be his, and then watch the kid who took both of those things from him beat them, and on the last-second shot more than anything, I can see that leading to some animosity, and I can see some frustration.
I just think to me, and I don't know the guy at all. I'm
very close with him.
Never even really heard him speak, but
Monte have it all.
I'm a Warriors. I'm a Warriors for life.
I'm a Warriors. I'm always going to be a Warriors.
From watching his game over the years, I would say that it hasn't changed at all, and he still doesn't get it in my mind. He hasn't really learned how to be an effective player, and he just continues to do what he's always been great at. And to me, that just shows a real lack of awareness and a guy who's really just focused on himself. And in that regard, I just don't think he cares at all about Steph.
Even noticed Steph. Yeah. Like it's not even part of his radar. Huh, that's interesting.
Yeah, I don't think that he knows that none of this was his fault. This team had Tyson Chandler signed with the Warriors. I think we're having a different discussion. I think Monte's still on the team, and we're thriving with him. And I'm just happy to see him play next to Dirk. We talked about it last week. He needs to be the second fiddle. If he's the number one guy on your team, you suck, and he is going to be out of control. I mean, he's taking the same shots he did in Milwaukee last year, but this year he's in the All-Star conversation.
I think in order to be in one of the most, if not the most athletic league on earth and succeed the way that he has, you have to be ultra competitive, and this would fall under that. But I understand what you guys are talking about. Last take, Sam D'Alembert. Does D'Alembert sound like a terrible French cheese to either of you guys? It was just bothering me the entire time. It sounds like it would smell like shit, taste nasty. It'd be like a cheese that looks like cheddar but just doesn't taste good at all. Just a random aside for me.
Oh, well, that's a great point.
A little too random for me. I have no.
You glazed over. No, I could tell. I could tell you're obviously not a big French cheese guy. Let's go back in time now. Start with the first game after our last podcast. That being the Houston, just terrible, terrible loss. You'll remember that this game came right after the Toronto comeback, and you'd like to think that Toronto taught them a lesson. If you don't come out ready to play, you'll find yourself down 27 points to the worst team in the fucking East. Apparently, they didn't learn that lesson. The only thing that was different in this one is that instead of playing 3 bad quarters, they played 4 and just got smashed from buzzer to buzzer.
This was so disappointing because it was a Friday night game. Started at 5 o'clock.
Big game too.
Rivalry game. Like, I was so excited. I finished up work, long week. You get home for a great rivalry game, and then it starts out with just Terrence Jones crushing David Lee and going off in the first quarter. It's just so disappointing. Ruined my Friday.
What I learned from that game is I can't watch another game with you, Bram. I'm sorry. First time we get together, watch a game. We pause it so we don't miss anything. We can both catch tip-off, and within 5 minutes, we're like, so what else you got to drink?
Yeah, I blamed you for what it's worth. I'm not sure why you put that filthy, terrible mojo on the game. For point of reference, Houston had a 19-point first-quarter advantage, stretched it to 24 by halftime, and led by as many as 28. It was a flat-out embarrassment.
I'd like to point out that had I been at the game, they would have come back and won, because that's the kind of mojo I bring to the game.
Well, I tell you, join Let's Go Warriors because we have tickets, but apparently you don't have
to do that. If I join Let's Go Warriors, would they invite me to the game?
I mean, speaking from personal experience, no.
Exactly.
We aren't the only people disappointed by this one. Here is Coach Jackson talking about how this game affected the mentality of the team.
After what happened against Toronto, did you expect something different? Did you expect a better start this time?
Well, I certainly did. So disappointed in that. We've certainly got to be better. You let Toronto Raptors, they're a team that,
we're good enough to battle back and win. Against these teams in the Western Conference, these good teams, you dig yourself a hole. It's awfully tough. So we've got to figure it out.
That interview was as sluggish as the Warriors looked during the game.
What's your reaction as the coach after this?
Apparently, his reaction was to fire up a joint before giving a press conference.
It's which way to the plane?
Do you get extremely angry at your team, or do you just say, this was so bad, I'm just going to move on and pretend like it never happened?
I'd like to think this was the first time they made this mistake. You'd get exceptionally angry and you'd have one of those fire and brimstone speeches, but it's not. I mean, they keep doing this. How many halftime speeches has he already let off with anger? You know, I mean, the last one they had to defer to Jermaine O'Neal to jumpstart them into it. So I am not sure how the hell he dealt with it. We do know they won the next game, so whatever he did was successful, but...
I mean, he's supposed to be this great motivator. Meanwhile, his team keeps coming out with a real lack of effort and a lack of intensity.
I don't see him as a great strategist or game planner. I think he is a good motivator, but it's not his fault that Draymond Green is the only one bringing anything off the bench.
And well, then he's not a good motivator. I mean, that's my point.
Well,
I'm saying that he doesn't have to be a strategist.
You can't motivate Nedovic to be an effective point guard.
I'm not talking about being effective. I'm talking about effort. There's no effort here at the beginning of these games.
Well, and even more than that, I'll give you another concerning trend. Not only have they not been playing throughout, but they're showing this real nasty tendency when their jump shot is off, when they're not playing offense, they're starting to not play defense either. They're not running back on. They're not running back on transition. They're not making the type of switches. Jackson is being touted as this huge defensive force. He keeps calling the Warriors a defensive team.
And defense is mostly desire. And to Scott's point, they're not showing the desire. They're not showing the hustle.
That's why
and actually,
I
don't know if you guys caught it. Bogut on Tom Tolbert's show this week, he called out the whole team pretty much flat out on exactly those points that. You can't, it's great that you can fill it up and you can come back from any deficit, but you can't hang your hat on that. It all starts with defense, and Bogut really ripped into him as much as you will hear a player do it. They don't, how guys are. They're going to play the PC game, but Bogut doesn't. He's fed up with it. Yeah, he's candid. You got to love those Bogut interviews.
No, absolutely. I will say I don't know if it's sheer motivation. We can certainly take a macro approach and show all the changes that Mark Jackson has made. And that we
Good job correcting yourself there.
Thanks.
He was ready too.
Mark Johnson is someone we work with. So I recognize that probably wasn't Mark Johnson who was actually turning this team around. Nonetheless, in particular instance, I don't know if we can take too many shots at his motivational ploys. We have seen it in a bunch of games, but if you step back and look at everything, you can see that he has made a series of changes. So I'm not ready to take shots at him as a coach just yet. A couple last points. Howard Kilduss looked like the dominant center that everyone thought he might be when he went to L.A. Never was, but apparently he's rounded into shape here in Houston. Ended up at 22 and 18. And my final thing is I love how disheveled Kevin McHale is. There are homeless people who have less wrinkled clothes than McHale. I mean, he's on national TV and obviously doesn't give a single shit about that. So props to you, McHale. That's nice.
He's still living out of the same suitcase he was using when he was with the Celtics.
He's that type of guy who, if he didn't have probably a family that would put up pictures in his house, it would just be blank walls.
Oh, sure. If he forgot to pack a suit, I can see him just coming through in shorts and coaching the game. Just is what it is. I mean, why the hell would he care at all? He'd really disappoint Mark Johnson on that, but that probably doesn't matter. Let's flip over to the Memphis game. This was fairly important to me. Not only were they coming off an ass-kicking against Houston, but Memphis had just owned us for years and years. We have not won in Memphis for 5 years, kind of a baby version of that San Antonio.
Since Andres Biedrins had spiked hair and a pulse.
And looked a lot like Drago from Rocky IV. We have to say Memphis was definitely short-handed. They did not have Marc Gasol, my fantasy casualty, nor did they have Tony Allen. But it's not like we were at full strength either. We were still missing Iguodala, so the win still means something. And unlike all the other games, we started off this one hot, led by Klay Thompson. He had his first 4 shots. He only hit 2 shots the entire night against Houston the night before, just for point of reference. Ended up with 30, I think. And the Warriors led 29-19 as opposed to being down 29-12 like they were the day before. So they finally got a little motivation.
every other day Clay is back, man, because he didn't do shit last night either.
Do you guys feel like this team kind of almost lives and dies by how Klay Thompson does early in the game? Because I feel those games where he hits some shots early, the whole team sighs and says, kind of calms down. It lets them get into a rhythm. They're not worried about what Klay Thompson's going to show up that night.
It's a good thought for sure. In fact, you just reminded me, Steph Curry was ripping into Klay last night. Did you guys see that? Because I'm dying to know. I think it was about defensive rotations or something, which is odd for Steph to be pitching about defense. But I mean, yeah, I think you're right. I think a lot of what the team's momentum is based on what Klay's doing. It's a good observation.
I don't think you're right. I do think that this team needs to start out fast in order to have confidence, and if Klay does it, he does it for them. But if Steph came out and hit his first 5 shots, they'd have that same sense of confidence. If Iguodala, who is still playing, came out and dominated, they'd be fine. I don't think they need Klay to do it. I don't think he's the guy they turn to. But if he does do it, it has the same effect as if anybody else.
I don't think it's a matter of them turning to him, though. I think it's a matter of if we don't get him going early, he's not going to give us anything later on because he has a tendency to disappear. He's been better with his body language this year, but it was terrible throughout last year. If he wasn't involved in the game, he had his little pouty face on like he didn't get his allowance, and the rest of the game was like, oh, we know we're getting from him the rest of the game.
Also, ESPN pointed out last night that Curry's tendency is to distribute early and then start looking for his shot. So, yeah, maybe the team would do well if Curry came out and hit his first 5 shots. But the problem is he's not taking the first 5 shots. Sure. Klay Thompson's the person doing it because Steph's deferring to him.
Well, if those are the only 2 scorers on the team, you'd be right. They aren't.
Well, Iguodala's not one because he's not playing.
Harrison Barnes is, who's playing for him. And Harrison started off a few games just as hot, and we've been able to ride him as well. I mean, there's no question Klay did it in this game. Of course, it led to it. But we're not limited to just those 2 scorers on the team.
And Klay is going to be firing throughout the game no matter what. So you want to get him in a rhythm early because he's not going to stop. And later on in the game, those shots that he's taking might start to piss you off if they're not falling early.
Can I tell you how much I'm enjoying that you shithoused my fucking up a couple words, and then I got to shithouse your one original point?
That was definitely not my first original point of this podcast.
I really enjoyed it. I just wanted to let you know. I wanted to stop, take a step back, and silently enjoy it. Before we get too far away from Klay, he actually had a great quote, at least for entertainment purposes. Here's Klay Thompson.
Feels great, not gonna lie. I've been in this league 3 years. I haven't beaten him in 3 years, so to finally get a win, the way we did it felt great. To win big like that.
After last night, bro, you had shooting. How important was it to come out the way you did?
I'll be lying to you if I told you it didn't feel good. It felt great, to snap out a little funk, and especially when you only, you barely help your team. So to do it on both ends tonight felt great, especially against a tough team. Really likes to grind it out. It's tough to score against them, so carry this momentum to Charlotte.
The fool run out of breath halfway through that answer? Was talking 30 seconds just too much and he needed to kind of slow down?
He seemed winded. Was that one of those interviews right after the game ended?
You know what? That's a good question. It sounded like there was a whole lot of press noise. So it sounded like it was probably in the locker room, but that was one thing that struck me. The other one, he says, I'm not going to lie 4 or 5 times. Is he a compulsive liar and just doesn't want to do it right now? Can't do it while he's all out of breath? Or
he didn't carry the momentum to Charlotte, I can tell you that.
That is true. I'll take the bait, move on to Charlotte. Let me just give you one last take. What I liked about Memphis, without Marc Gasol for the first time, we pushed them around. Every single time we watch a Memphis game, it's them out-rebounding us, them out-blocking us, them being the big boys on the block. We got to do it this time. I lied, one last one. Other time we played Memphis, I bitched that we played the whole time at Memphis's pace, and they destroyed us. We flipped the script on this one. We pushed it. We kicked out every outlet. We were running transition, and we made them play with us. So much so, played so fast that Klay Thompson was still exhausted while giving quotes at the end of the game. That's the key to beating this team, making sure they don't have their best player. But it was good to see.
Yeah, exactly. Without Gasol, as your fantasy team knows, they're a different team without him and Tony Allen also. So when the playoffs come around, I'm still going to be worried about Memphis.
No question. Side note, Steph didn't play well, but he did hit a couple of threes. That gave him the all-time franchise record for threes, beating out Jason Richardson. Jay Rich had 700 three-pointers, and now Steph is beating him out. So we got a brand new franchise leader.
King.
Yeah, I think this guy goes down as the best three-point shooter the NBA has ever
passing
seen.
Reggie.
Do you believe that? Do you think that's true?
I do, because I looked at it today. The competition is actually not that hard to beat. I mean, you're talking Ray Allen, Reggie Miller are the kind of the top two in actually numbers-wise. I look for guys who also hit a high percentage. So Ray Allen's still on that list.
Sure.
You got guys like Dale Ellis, Peja Stojakovic. Yeah, Steph crushes all those guys.
Yeah.
Well, he's a new breed, too, because back in the day, if you were shooting 4 3-pointers a game, I mean, you better be one of those guys you just mentioned. And Clay and Steph, they're flipping that model on its ass.
And not one of those guys is given the ball first. I mean, all those other people didn't start off with a rock. He now has it, and he's going to have the opportunity to shoot way more balls. So
he could shoot 12 in a game, and nobody would blink. They'd be like, yeah, every one of them was a good shot.
Let's move on and quickly handle the Charlotte loss. This is one of the worst in recent memory. It was at the same time as a football game that was going on that just destroyed my fantasy football season, so it was really hard for me to concentrate. I was really...
So that makes two things that I don't care about in this game.
Yeah, well, thank God I wasn't talking to you then, buddy. Go fuck yourself. Either way, this was a very, very nasty game. We can get the excuses out of the way. End of an 8-city, 8-game Warrior trip. They've played the most road games in the league at 14, but bottom line is they gave up 115 points to a team that averages 90 points. Unacceptable. This was awful. I'm not sure what else to say about it.
Nothing.
Yeah, I mean, you could not have asked for a better game to potentially end an 8-game road trip. You had a terrible team. You had Steph Curry homecoming. Harrison Barnes also played in North Carolina, so you had that going for him.
Bazemore too.
Yeah, Bazemore. And the Bobcats were missing, I think, 3 of their starters.
Right.
So you could not have asked for a better equation, and they just took the night off.
You know what struck me in this game while watching it? With Iguodala out and Harrison Barnes in the starting 5, our bench unit is awful.
Terrible.
There's no scoring. There's no one scoring. And so when we bring them in now, I mean, it can lead. It takes what could be a small either deficit or lead and then flips it on its head.
They sleptwalked into Charlotte too, thinking that this game was a cinch. They looked right past it. You saw Bazemore got some first quarter playing time because it was a homecoming game. He had like 100 family members, whatever. That's great, but you can see the priorities were not straight in this game from Mark Jackson on down.
Am I wrong, or does Bazemore suck?
He's out of position. He needs to be a 2-guard.
In the D-League?
He needs to be a 100% 2-guard, and he's not going to get the opportunity.
Have you seen that guy shoot? I hope he's not a 2-guard.
I loved Bazemore coming into the year. I thought he was a really fantastic story. I thought he was going to establish himself as a role player, and instead he's established himself as a D-League player in my eyes. And I hate to say it. He's got so much personality. He's great for the team, but he's been nothing but a minus so far.
Yeah, he's not even doing the Bazemoring pose, so what the hell is he doing this year?
Well, we talked about the lack of depth on the second unit. It just got worse. News came out today that Jermaine O'Neal's right wrist injury apparently has progressed to the point that he can't play through it. He's going to require surgery. More than that, he's going to require season-ending surgery. So we will no longer see Jermaine O'Neal. How does this affect us, gentlemen?
Well, from what I saw on Twitter before we went live is that they said they're not going to establish the timetable until after the surgery.
They do it. Okay.
So they haven't said it's season ending, but if it is season ending, it could be career ending.
Yeah, absolutely. And it probably will be, right? I mean, I don't think he's going to be coming back too many times. Does this hurt us? What do you guys think?
He can still give speeches.
Yeah, I mean, he still can be a leader for the team.
Can he? That was going to be one of my questions. Is it as effective? Someone's not playing for the team. Do you listen to him the same way?
You've got 18 years in the league.
You do.
You can be a leader. Absolutely.
Regardless if you're suiting up.
Yes.
But in reality, that's Mark Jackson's job. 18 years in the league, and he's given those speeches. If a guy's not out there fighting with you, I don't think it has the same impact.
I feel exactly the same way. I'm not sure I could look. I mean, I think the first few definitely, he can lean back on my experience. I joined this team to win a championship. But if he's not out there sweating with you, fighting with you, going through all that drama with you, I don't know if his words are going to spur you.
He is like another coach on the bench, though.
Yeah.
I mean, you can't take that away from him. He's going to help the big men progress because we need guys like Kuzmic to score a couple points a game.
Well, rest in peace, Jermaine O'Neal. You will be sorely missed. I'm sorry to announce the news. Hopefully
that's what happens when you punching people, man. tear ligaments in your wrist.
Do you think this was kind of a pre-existing injury? This thing went down when he gave it to that fan.
I wonder if this was just if he disclosed this when he signed this offseason. I don't know.
Anyone who's ever watched that video of him punching the fan probably realized he had pre-existing right wrist problems.
Exactly.
Let's move over. Last segment, but my favorite one, over-under.
Whoa.
Oh,
cutting out
Jesus,
the
I'm sorry. You're absolutely right.
Over the newest
we have a brand new segment, one that is not mine, which is why I was probably so eager to move on. Scotty, over to you.
So what's ahead? Let me give you just a rundown of kind of what's coming up for this Warriors team. They play 6 of their next 8 games at Oracle, so you got to love that. Here are their next 4 games. They have Houston at home this Friday, December 13th. Then they have Phoenix away on Sunday, December 15th. That starts at 5 p.m. Pacific time. In case you were wondering, Sundays, never quite sure when that's going to start. Then back home Tuesday, December 17th against the Anthony Davis-less Pelicans.
I'm going to that game, and the only reason I got those tickets was to see Anthony Davis, so that's great.
Awesome.
So
now you get Tyreek Evans. Perfect.
No,
Huzzah.
He's injured too.
Oh, he is, isn't he?
Hooray.
So that's what's ahead.
How many of those 4 games do you guys think they win?
All 4.
Dude, you think they go 4-0?
Yep.
I'm sorry, I was thrown off. That segment needs to be sponsored by the Warriors. That was like an infomercial right there.
It's a little logistical. That's all right. It's growing. I say they win 3 of the upcoming 4.
To me, they're going to be inconsistent until the depth comes back. I'm saying 500 until Iguodala gets back.
I guess we will find out. We'll get an update on that next week. Now, over to the over-under segment. As we found out last week, nobody needs an explanation as to what over-under is, so we can simply jump in. The idea is that we give some predictions and hopefully have some fun along the way. Here's your first one. Mark Jackson technicals for the rest of the season. I put the number at 0.5 because we did a little bit of research and found out that in his not so long but certainly illustrious career as a coach, Mark Jackson has never had a single technical foul. So 0.5 over-under.
Under, and it really pains me to say that because Mark Jackson, as a coach, one of your obligations is to, try to make your team win, and part of that is getting on the refs sometimes.
Yeah.
And when you've got an opposing coach who's working the refs over about how your guys are getting fouled, that has an impact, and he doesn't do that. He sits there with a blank look on his face during the game. So it's under, and I wish it wasn't.
I'm going under too. I got Scott took the words right out of my mouth. It's like, when you watch a 49ers game, you see Jim Harbaugh just ripping into the refs to the point where they're almost afraid to throw a flag in front of this guy. And I would like to see that at some point. There's been a couple, we're talking about strategies and speeches and this and that, and that's one of those motivating things. I'd like to see him get his ass thrown out of a game because, it's like there's been a number of different analogies that go on, but it's kind of like, you just say the magic word and get yourself thrown out to fire up your team. I want to see that someday. It's under, though.
It's for those reasons I disagree with you guys and say over. Scott, you're asking how he can motivate the team. His speeches are no longer doing it. I think if they keep showing this nasty tendency of literally not playing for quarters at a time, sometimes 3 quarters at a time, he's going to need something else. And one of the tricks he can do is going crazy, getting himself thrown out, and having these guys get his back. And
Let me ask you a question.
It's only a matter of time before he tries it.
How does he go about doing that? Because it's pretty widely known a certain few curse words will get you teed up and will get you thrown out of a game. But he doesn't curse. What does he have to do to get teed up and thrown out of a game?
Run onto the floor. Just go onto the floor and
refuse to leave.
Yeah, or just run onto the floor.
Have a sit-in on the court.
Approach a ref. Do something of it.
Sit at center court. I would love to see that.
You could definitely do a sit.
Sit-in.
You can have a silent protest. I do think he's going to get
fasting.
I don't know if he'd get a technical for fast, but he might. But I think that this is going to become a motivational play for him, and I think that's why we're going to get over a half. All right.
So you think he notices that then? We're not the only ones because we've talked about it before.
Notices what? That he's never had a technical?
That he can use that as a ploy.
Yeah. I do think he notices that. I also think that before this team needed a calming, steadying influence to turn a loser into a winner, now they need someone to actually motivate them through lackadaisical play. That's where we'll see it. We got an email from a Johnny D. Bird. The reason I'm reading to this because it'll lead to the next over-under. He writes, Bram, either you have Tourette's or you have a potty mouth. Let me give the award for most obvious observation to Johnny D. Bird. I do not have Tourette's. I do have a potty mouth, but that leads me to ask, How many F-bombs in the next episode? I put the number at 2. Over under. I'm going to go under.
I'm going over.
I'm going to go over. Actually, no. I'm going to go under because, I'm screwed.
Now you have control of this one.
I know, that's what I'm saying. I'm screwed either way. I know you're a competitive guy, so you're just going to screw.
Exactly.
So, Justin, you got to go.
Johnny D-Bag.
Which way? At least one. Let's let at least one of us be right. I guess he could do 2 and push the whole thing, huh?
Yeah,
we're
and he
screwed.
will, too. That's the kind of D-Bag he is.
I go under. It sounds like you guys are refusing to participate in the bet. Let's move on to the next one. Steph Curry set a 3-point record last year at 272 in a single season. My question is, over under for Klay Thompson, 272 3-pointers on the year.
Under.
Unfortunately, I agree. He came out super hot to start the year. I think he has more threes right now than Steph does, but I don't think he can keep up that kind of clip.
It's predicated on other people. That's the thing. Steph can come up and shoot it from half court every time. Klay, he needs to get going. He needs other guys to get him the ball. In fact, his shots are more assisted than any other player in the league, if I'm not mistaken. More of his points are assisted than any other player in the league.
No, that doesn't surprise me at all. He doesn't initiate offense. Last time we covered this, and I put the number at such a terribly low one that we destroyed it within a week. These being fights on the year. We put it at 1.5 before. They're already at like 2, I think, now.
No, way more than that.
Let me go from here looking forward. New over-under on fights, 4.5.
I'm still going over.
Oh, I'm going to go under, even though it's a terrible thing to root for the under on this type of thing.
Yeah, I agree with you. I hope it goes over, but I think it's going to go under. I still have faith in the preacher, Coach Jackson, getting these guys under control a little bit.
Not if Andrew Bogut is on your team, you're going over.
Speaking of Andrew Bogut, here's my next one over.
No, there are no more. We're done.
What?
We got to wrap this up. I got to take off. Well, really appreciate you guys listening again. We're on the different marketplaces, so definitely check us out there. Email us, warriorshuddle@gmail.com. We're on Twitter at warriorshuddle, and really appreciate it. We'll see you next week.
Hit me up on trappedinggoldenstate.com, on Facebook, and hit me up about some Dub City gear. I've been selling hoodies all season. People are repping out at the arena, so thank you to everybody that's been repping that this year.
Good.